Welcome back to Betting the Narrative. Each week we dive into Netflix's Avatar The Last Airbender, the live action series. And while you can find our overall thoughts on the season in our first episode, throughout book one, we will be discussing in further detail how each episode compares to the live action version. So this episode actually gets roped into the Omashu arc in the live action series. Alex, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on how Netflix adapted this episode?
This one is weird because they do, for the most part, keep the main points of this episode, but it's very retrofitted to fit into the Omashu arc. Like they obviously move him from we're not at the Northern Air Temple when in the
Mm-hmm.
live action series for this. We have instead the Mechanist and Teo are in Omashu and doing stuff there, and they blend it with the King of Omashu and then also Jet because Jet and the Freedom Fighters are roped into this and how they
Mm-hmm.
interact here. And it's I
There's a
struggle with
lot
this.
in one.
Yeah, I struggle with this one because, and I've mentioned this a couple times now on the podcast, and that I like the live action version of this episode. Like, I like that episode on its own. It's arguably my favorite of the live action ones because I think it's a good story. Like, they do well with
Mm-hmm.
all the intrigue and the plots and stuff and the way that things are working. And it's entertaining and done well there. But then again, it gets weird when you start thinking about what they had to do to change that and then some of the other things that we lose in the process, like we lose seeing the Northern Air Temple retrofitted and being
Mm-hmm.
industrialized, and how Aang is grappling with that, and seeing these other people in the Air Temple that are not airbenders, and how that affects him. Like we don't get any of that. We don't like
Which
so
is
we
a
lose that.
big theme that comes back, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
so
you're not
we
getting that
lose
now.
that element of it, and then we also don't get a huge battle sequence, which is a bummer. I mean, it makes sense that they didn't do that because this would be super expensive to do probably.
Yeah.
But
They were
I
like,
mean, they
we can
did,
only afford one. It will be the Siege of the North.
yeah, and that, and then also the destruction of the air nomads at the beginning of
At the
the first
beginning, which
episode, which it didn't need, but sure.
nobody needed that.
Um,
Yep.
but yeah, so I get them not doing the huge siege of the Northern Air Temple and not wanting to do that. Like I understand not trying to have to deal with that from a logistical angle, but that's a really cool battle sequence that we lost. Like it, as we were just talking about, it's done really well. It's very engaging and it shows the ingenuity not just of Sokka but of everyone working together, and it's just cool to see. And so I feel like the biggest thing that you lose by not having it the same in this episode is that location. There's a reason it's
Yeah,
titled the
we missed
Northern.
the whole Northern
Like
Air
it,
Temple. We don't even see. Did we get the Northern Air Temple at all? Even mentioned?
I don't think so. I know they go to one of the air temples, but I'm pretty sure it's just the Southern Air Temple because it's whenever
Mm-hmm.
he has his freak out, and
Mm-hmm.
Katara brings him back down. Because I know we see that, and that's when they get I forget what they tell him about to do in the live action one in that scene, but it's something.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
something.
I don't think that we see it at all in the live action, which is a bummer because as we were saying, the air temples are so cool, and by not having it set there, you lose just that
A lot of
location,
world
which
building and
yeah,
lore and
it's
depth
a
to the world.
yeah, you do still, like I was saying, they keep the main, you get the Mechanist, you get Teo, you get him building things for the Fire Nation and being exposed in that way, and then getting angry at him for it. You get the struggle and the conflict, in the in-house drama between Teo and his father, and him having to do what he needed to do to survive and
Mm-hmm.
protect his family. You do still get those main character beats for him, which is nice. You have I'm blanking on the actor's name now from Community playing the Mechanist though, and he's great. Love him. Isn't it Danny Pudi, right? Something like that. I
No, no,
think.
it is
Is
Renee.
it?
No, no, no. I'm looking at the.
It's
I am thinking of
it's
the voice
I'm
actors. I
I'm
think
also
it's.
now just blanking on his name in Community, also his character's name.
I love him
He's
because he's great. Wait,
he's fantastic.
I'm looking this up
Um
right now because I love him.
uh
Yes,
so
Danny Pudi. Danny Pudi. Okay,
okay, cool. I was right. Yeah, but he's fantastic. He
so
does
cute. I
great in
love
it.
him.
Yeah, he's amazing. And so he's awesome in the show,
Mhm.
and his interactions with Sokka are also cool because they do keep that
That
relationship
little
between them.
relationship.
of like them really bouncing off of each other
Hmm.
well, and like both seeing things and understanding things on that like technical level, which is nice. And so like again, you get the broad strokes that you kind of like quote unquote need there, but you still
Yeah.
just like you'll lose a lot, which is just
Like the majority of it was good because they basically followed it a lot. Like
yeah.
they mostly followed the original plot,
Hmm.
mostly.
But then
But they had
you
like the parts of it that were really good and that made sense and
mhm.
worked there. And I was like, that's why we liked it. That's why it was good.
Yeah, and it's
But then obviously
also
didn't hit.
and trying to and
You miss a
integrating
lot.
it
Yeah.
with the jet stuff is also just a weird like
It just takes away. And then
combination.
Jet pointing out that he's betraying, that he's working for the Fire Nation.
Yeah,
Because
and the
Jet
way
is the one
that
to point out instead of them, which I guess that
finding
works. Hmm.
yeah, it's again it's just a weird like it works in a vacuum. That's like what happens with a lot of the changes I think to the live action thing is that like you can see it and look at it and be like this makes sense and it works in a vacuum, but then you like step back and you're
And you're
like
like, ooh,
well, you're losing a lot though,
well,
or like changing a lot that doesn't necessarily like
because
need
we
to
all
be
know the
changed.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, which I guess like, the argument can be made that like a lot of people who watch the Netflix version like won't have known the story because people are dumb and don't think animation is a viable medium and they're wrong. But like it's just
And they're wrong.
um
That's
and so like I
that's
get that,
fact.
and so like it can work on its own,
Hmm.
but it's just so hard to look at it and be like this was a improvement because it
It
wasn't.
wasn't. It doesn't. I don't know what it improves upon in this. And honestly, I don't even know why. I get why it needs to stay in, but I don't know why this is one of those things that made it in so much to the live action. Because honestly, I
Yeah.
think that storyline is something that you can do without and you can get around. Because really, what we get
Hmm.
from Teo and the Mechanist is hot air balloon. Um,
Hmm.
Not saying that it doesn't need to be needed, but I'm saying in the live action, if they wanted to take something out, you could have taken that out and make
Yeah,
it with
and
something.
especially because like it's not like they're geographically moving to that, like they don't go to the Northern Air Temple.
Hmm.
So like it's not, you don't need, like that's the main
Yeah.
point of this episode and the animation is that
And
like
that the Fire Nation
it's
gets the hot air balloons to.
yeah, and like it's their last trip before the Northern Water Tribe.
Mhm.
They're like geographically close to there, so like duh. But like if you're not gonna bother with that, then why did you put it in the first half slash middle of the season
Of the season, yeah.
in Omashu? Like, what are we
And
doing
the
here?
and the people flying, like, is it gonna come back? I guess because it does come back in the animation. It makes sense. They're great side characters,
Yeah.
and they add depth, and they do provide a lot later. Like I know the Mechanist provides a lot of great inventions that do help them win the war, and he
Hmm.
also
Like
like encourages
he's a
Sokka, and
like he's a super crucial character, and so it's good to have him in there. But it would have been better to have him at the Northern Air Temple
Abner
where
there
the
is involved.
episode
It
is
makes
named.
sense.
Like
Yeah,
it's just I still you
and we
just
don't get
lose.
the industrialization kind of theme, and
Exactly.
that
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like that's the main thing that you
theme of
lose
like,
because like
yeah,
that's the
ruining
main
ancient relics and
yeah, that's like aside from
pollution. And
the like nuanced conflict of like supplying arms to the enemy, like that's the other
hmm.
like main theme of the episode is the like
Hmm.
industrialization and the like technology taking over the land and like
And
ruining
like,
what's
is
come
it like, where's
before.
the line? What's
Yeah,
like,
like
it is like, there's pros and cons to it. There's
mhm.
like, do you
Like
really
what's
just leave it here and not use it at all? Or do you use these spaces now to feel like, what is the line? Like,
like what yeah, when is
between
it
destroying and
beneficial and
honoring.
when is it
And
yeah, like when's it beneficial to
hmm.
make these changes and advancements and like when is it harmful? Like where does
Hmm.
progress not become like good progress and just like
Hmm.
change for the sake of change and then destructive and like there's no hint of any sort of thought or
Any
nuance
of
like that in
thought
live
at all.
action.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
that's
like
a
that's
big
just
theme that does come back throughout the entire Avatar universe. It
yeah.
comes back a lot in Korra, and
Yeah, I mean it becomes a
we see that
huge
it,
thing in
yeah.
Korra because of like the
Hmm.
technological leaps that they make
Hmm.
like in that show. And so taking that theme out is like you lose a big part of what makes the show the show.
So
So
yeah, so it's like once again, it's not
you
even
like
fine. It's not even fine this
you
time.
missed the plot. Like you took like it's
It was
I know
right there, and you just
we've talked about this with
went
other
around it.
live action segments where they're like, oh well, we got the on paper bit like broad strokes that we needed to do. Like this character's
Yeah.
here and this character's here because the characters need to be there because like they'll do X, Y, and Z later on, but they miss any of the nuance. I don't want
That
to say
makes it
any because they do
good.
bring half of the nuance from them with the like, hey, he's supplying stuff for the Fire Nation. Like they keep that part of it, but like
Hmm.
the other big nuanced thing with his character that they explore is not there. And so
And it's
it's
good because there's the small things. I think I called it, what did I say? I was like, it's a big juicy steak or something. Because,
yes.
but it's like, the steak is really good because you have all these seasonings on it and it's cooked
Yeah.
right. And there's a side of green beans and mashed potatoes. And I'm hungry right now thinking about this. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Sounds
they
great.
missed all that. They're like, this is just the meat. It's uncooked. But it's meat. You're like,
It's there. It's there though.
yeah, but like I get it, but it's you didn't season it like at all. Like
Yeah.
what the hell are you doing?
Then
Hey, Aspect listener, enjoying the show?
be sure to subscribe here on The Aspect so you never miss an episode.
And check out more episodes and clips on our playlist here.
Thanks so much for watching, and
Lamio Hot Man.